Hey, what's up y'all? Welcome back to another processing tutorial. In this video, I'm going to introduce y'all to images and the p-image data type that processing comes with. And we'll also take a look, I think, at how to resize and display images, how to import them into our sketches, and we might probably take a look at like the filter function, which is another built-in function that processing comes in with to kind of do some fun things to some pictures. So let's get started and make a new sketch. We will do our regular setup and draw loops here. Let's make it 640 by 480. And we'll color the background black. Now, to actually import images into our sketches, we need to save them so that they have a sketch folder. So I'll save this here on the desktop. And we'll just call this intro to images, and it's going to rename this for me. Yes, yes, yes. Okay. And now there is actually a sketch folder, which if I click show, it should bring up the sketch folder, right? And so now I can start putting things in this sketch folder. And the first way we're going to do that is we're going to use the add file option from this drop-down menu. And let's add a picture of a butterfly. And so you can see what happens is when you use that drop-down menu here, add file, right? It's going to create the IDE is going to create a data folder for you and throw that image in there. Of course, if you're going to import like a bunch of them, or you don't want to use that, you can just make a new folder yourself, name it data, and then take whatever you want, right? Maybe I have a different picture I want to put in here and throw it in there, right? Okay, so that's how to get images into your sketch so that you can then use them, right? And now what we need to do is go and create a p-image variable, and let's call this one image. And then in setup, we are going to use the load image function, and we need to tell it what the name of the image is, and this one is butterfly 230704.png, right? And during setup, this will now load this image that we've put into our sketch folder into the p-image variable that we've named image. And just as another note here, processing can support PNG, JPEG, GIF, and TGA files. Okay, so we've got this image loaded into that p-image variable. So now all we have to do is just use the image function, and we're going to tell it which p-image we want to display, and we're going to tell it where we want to display that image, right? So this kind of reminds us perhaps of some of our primitive shape functions like rect or ellipse or arc or any of those, right? So, okay, great. So we can see this image is now on the screen. Obviously though, the image is named butterfly and this looks like a leaf. Well, it's because the picture itself, butterfly, is of like an actual butterfly. There's a little flower, there's a rock, a little sprinkler down here, right? So there's a lot of this picture we're not seeing, and that may be something that you want. You may want to actually move the image around. I could say -500, right? And that'll move this image to the left. Right. Okay, and so you can see now I'm looking at a different part of the image. But you may also want to actually be able to see the whole thing, right? So what we can do is we can say image.resize, and then let's say width, comma, height, and run the sketch again. And this will resize the image so that it is now this many pixels wide and this many pixels tall. Okay, so now we can see the whole thing. And with just like this, you can do a lot of really cool stuff. We can use translate, rotate, and scale the same way we would with other shapes, So let's look at how maybe we'll make a grid of images, right? So we're going to come back here and we're going to think about like the number of rows and columns. And let's start with like 6 columns, and let's make, how about 2 rows? And then what we'll do is we will, instead of setting this to width and height, we're going to resize the image to width divided by the number of columns. And we are going to resize the height the height of our image by height divided by the number of rows, right? So that will make this image the right size so that we can then repeat it using a for loop. So I can say for, or a couple of nested for loops. So I'm going to say for integer I equals 0, I is less than the number of rows, I plus plus. And then inside of this for loop, I'll nest another one. I'll say int j equals 0. J is less than columns j plus plus, right? And then here I can say float y equals map I, which goes between 0 and rows minus 1, between 0. And because this is basically acting like a rect in corner mode, what I want to do is I don't actually want to go all the way from 0 to height. I want to go from 0 to height minus, right, the size, the vertical size of the actual image itself. So that'll give me the y position. And then similarly for my x position, I'm going to map j, which I know goes between 0 and columns minus 1, between 0 and width minus the width of one of our images here. And then here I can come in here and I can say push matrix, pop matrix, and I can say translate x, y, and then I can move my image function here, and I think I did everything right, and when I run this I will now get a 2x6 grid of butterfly pictures. Okay, nice, right. So you see there's a little bit of a gap here, and that's probably has to do with the fact that there's a remainder with some of these numbers, right? So we can just kind of make it a little bit wider so that it covers the whole background. All right, so that's kind of a hacky way, but it fixes it for us, right? All right, so that's like a nice little grid of images we have. Let's take a look now. Let's just go to the processing reference actually for filter, and you can see that there are a bunch of different ones. We've got threshold, gray, opaque, invert, posterize, blur, erode, and dilate. We're not going to go over all of them. I will encourage you to just kind of come check out the reference and look at the examples. But let's just take a couple just for fun. So let's do gray. So we'll come here and we'll say filter, gray, run the sketch again. Now we've got the grayscale image being repeated in this 2x6 grid. Let's do one more. How about, I like this posterize. Let's do posterize. And let's read actually, what is that? Posterize. Limit the channel of the image to the number of colors specified. Okay, that's cool. So if we come in here and instead of gray we say posterize 3, limit the number of colors that we can actually use. All right, interesting, right? So now we're only using, I guess, like 3 colors technically. Yeah, so now y'all know how to add images to your sketches, you know how to load them, you know into a pimage variable, you know how to resize them, you also know how to display them using the image function, and you've seen a couple ways you can use this filter function. Like I said, I'm going to encourage you to check out the reference to play around with the other ones, and I will also encourage you to join me in the next video to see how we can do some more fun things with images in processing.